Okay. I think we can get started. And so welcome to auto interim meeting. So this is our fifth interim meeting. And the focus will be the deployment catalyst and security privacy isolation issues. So my name is Qin Wu, and my co-chair Mohammed, and we will moderate this discussion. Note where probably you are recorded, and please follow the code of conduct. RPR rules apply. And note where, and please feel free to read it. And this is the agenda we propose for today's discussion. So we have two topics. For the first topic, we will invite Ayub to give an introduction for the security privacy isolation use case requirements for auto protocol. And then the presentation will be limited to the 20 minutes. We'll leave 50 minutes for discussion. The second topic is security issue consideration for auto deployment. Luis will lead the discussion. And we will limit the presentation for 10 minutes and leave 5 minutes for discussion. And for the other, actually, we welcome some other idea for auto deployment catalyst. And for next step, actually, we'll discuss the future of the working group. Maybe we can leverage IETF-ALTO-20230530-1400 to discuss this. Please feel free to review the proposal in the GitHub and feel free to contribute. The current status of charter work item, and we already completed the working group last call for transport individual draft, and for auto OM, and we just started the second working group last call, and so probably we'll, based on the comments from the second working group last call, make another revision, and our plan is complete the write-up and submit the individual draft to ISG in the second week of the June. Any agenda batch? No, actually, let's move on to go to the first topic. Ayub, you want to share a slide by yourself?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll give you approve.
Hello, everybody. Can you see my screen?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Chin. So my name is Ayub Msous. I am with Fujitsu Research of Europe, and I've been interested in the topic related to trust and this following this topic for some times now. Today's presentation is about how to achieve, how to move towards trust enhanced ALTO. The outline of my presentation, the topic that I'll be covering, will start with a quick introduction by providing also an overview of what a trust can bring to the ALTO and what are the possibilities for the integration of trust into ALTO. The major part of my presentation today is the different ideas that we prepared on how we can bring trust into the ALTO protocol. And we'll end this discussion with a summary. We'll have some time for some discussion, hopefully. As you may know, so the ALTO protocol, this is just a quick overview of what you already know in terms of what's the ALTO standard and the different possible implementation. So the ALTO protocol allows internet client to obtain information related to network properties on paths. This information can identify and help select the optimal route to access useful data by a different type of client. So what's the value for trust? What are the value that trust can bring for enhancing network decision making, especially in the Alto? As you know, so trust is, and it have been already established following the side meeting that we had in ITF Yokohama. So trust is an important and complex concept that would help supporting decisions, that would support decision making in unpredictable network circumstances and environment. It also is considered as critical factor in many areas, and including network traffic optimization. On the other hand, trust can help assess the value of information, product, and entities and services in the network. Finally, trust can help evaluate quality of different interaction, but based on reputation and trustworthiness. If the major, I would say, value of our work is try to integrate trust into Alto, there are different elements that can benefit from bringing trust into Alto. Here I try to summarize the most useful one. First of all, trustworthiness metrics. If we include this as part of Alto, so this would help incorporate trustworthiness metrics into Alto information model. Some of the important factors that need to be considered are like reliability, security, stability, and also performances are major elements, and this would help making better decision and help the decision making using quantitative measurement. The second element, which is trying to extend the cost metrics, so incorporating trust factors would help expand Alto's cost metric into include trustworthiness. This would also be used eventually for resource selection, so different application can consider trust-related factors for optimal resource selection. And obviously, the outcome from that it was really enhanced decision making, where trust will be trust integration can improve routing decision and resource utilization. Finally, real-time trust update. So by continuously monitoring, we can have updated value for trustworthiness metrics, and this will help for making adaptive decision making for the application. On the second aspect, and then on the other element, which is the advantages of trust enhanced Alto, we can say that we can achieve informed decision making, we can have an enhanced security, and also hopefully improved performance and overall quality. Alto already now covered is used to improve network performances, reduce network congestion, and hopefully offer network better user experiences. Once we bring trust into Alto, basically we try to the element that we want to focus on is introduce trust as a new performance metric, and hopefully improve network trustworthiness, and finally improve user satisfaction by helping assessing the value of information, product, services, and reducing the risk related to lack of trust. The major part and the most important part of today's talk is the different initial ideas that we brought so far related to how can trust can be implemented or integrated as part of the Alto. The first idea is working on trusted IP-based geolocation for entities in the Alto architecture. The second one is defining trust as one of the possible cost measurement to be used within Alto. The third one is considering trust enhanced property map. And finally, multi-domain settings and trust as part of Alto. This idea should contribute to enhance trustworthiness and trust-aware decision-making within the Alto architecture. Also, by prioritizing such aspect, Alto can provide application with more reliable, secure, and trustworthy information for optimizing resource selection, routing, and hopefully policy enforcement. So now I'll try to give more details about each of these different ideas. So the first one, there is some context which is related to trusted IP-based geolocation. So the accurate geolocation of network entities such as clients, servers, and resources have been established that this would play a crucial role in making informed resource selection. However, traditional geolocation methods are lacks in this in terms of accuracy, and they present some vulnerabilities. The value for this is to implemented trust IP-based geolocation mechanism with Alto can enhance the accuracy and reliability, and the expected outcome would be that trusted geolocation can improve the decision-making process, leading to better resource allocation. However, in terms of deployment, we need to. There are still some few open questions in order where we can best put such mechanism into practice as part of Alto. So the first part is it within with possible integration within the Alto server. So we need to ask how to include robust geolocation as part of the Alto server, which element would benefit the most from trusted geolocation, and also how to share trusted output with the Alto client. If we consider the elements related to the Alto client, so the question to be asked to answer is how to use the inputs received from the Alto server, and also what is the expected impact on performances and user experience. And finally, is it possible or useful to include trust measurement within the Alto client, or just keep it integrated as part of the Alto server? We are open to other suggestions in terms of for using third parties or like content providers, like developing other trust related element outside of the Alto. But these are it might have it might have a good like a direct impact on the behavior and the performances achieved within trusted Alto. So here we need to focus on the resources and also maybe focus on the paths between client and resource. So how to how to select the most trusted path between client and content. The second element, which is trust as a cost measurement in Alto. So since currently Alto, as far as I know, use only cost measurement to quantify the performances or quality of network paths for or and resources. The expected outcome for this it will be basically to prioritize trustworthy resources would lead to enhanced security, improve reliability, and optimize resource utilization within the network. We can see that an Alto server would offer the quality of trust as a novel cost metric. This cost metric would convey high-level measurement for quality of trust depending on the path between the source and the destination. Higher values would indicate higher preferences for traffic to be sent from source to destination using the selected path. And which I can see that also service providers may internally decide, they have the opportunity or the chance to decide on the specific factors and their respective weights for computing quality of trust. However, quality of trust is essentially important for multi-domain settings, and also which makes standardization efforts very crucial. Hence, this proposal as part of the Alto group. Quality of trust should reflect and can be impacted by sensitivity of data, the type of traffic, and the projected application and use case of the client. Simple methods for calculation can include air miles, hop count, which is already established, but we do have more details related to the different factors that can be involved in calculating such measurement. But we still do need to work on defining the trust as a cost measurement. So this will be basically similar to how cost metrics are defined and used, and we are considering to introducing trust cost similar to routing cost, for instance. The question that we need to address for this second proposal is the added value of the Alto, and also to think how can move forward with this and to make it a reality. Let's move now to the third idea related to trust enhanced property map. Currently, there are four major property maps, that network maps and that are currently available within Alto. So the network map, the entity property map, and the cost map. There is the endpoint and the point cost map. Basically, we are suggesting to maybe introduce the new one, focus this time on trust enhanced property map, where we try to provide trust-focused measurement for each A&E that would allow trust-based decision making. And if you can see the structure, this is how where we can imagine such an entity. And I guess further discussion would be needed, and this would basically align with some of the ideas that will be brought later on by Lewis in his presentation. And we do need some more discussion in order to evaluate the potential use cases for such idea. Finally, the final idea is relevant to multi-domain and trust as part of ALTO. So exposing multi-domain network information to support emerging use cases introduce issues to be considered in the current ALTO design. One of these issues related to security and privacy. We can also say that the information provided by ALTO protocol is considered for now very broad and coarse-grained. So this such network information is exposed as abstract maps, such as network map and so on. And the benefits of abstract map include protection of information privacy and improved scalability. However, many ASPs dislike disclosing such detailed information about the network because of the risk factors. Therefore, Alto protocol is designed for now to offer little information about ASP's network architecture to peer-to-peer application vendors. This new possible extension need to be designed to provide fine-grained network information to the application. Using these extension services for multi-domain scenario to raise new security and privacy concerns. So basically, in this element, we try to bring together these different factor, how trust, Alto, and the multi-domain setting can be brought all together, as previously mentioned. So trust is very important, and also especially in multi-domain system, where some data exchange or information exchange would be required. In the case of the Alto protocol and in multi-domain settings, trust between different domains can facilitate the exchange of network information. And if we think about different domains, if different domain trust that their network information will be used appropriately, so and this would have multi-domain will entities will be more inclined to share some sort of this kind of information is protected. So this can improve the performance of application that uses the Alto protocol to optimize their network resource consumption across multiple domains. As a summary of my today presentation, so the Alto protocol can act as a facilitator for incorporating trustworthiness consideration into network-related decision-making processes, and it also can provide framework and mechanism for application to access trust-related information, support defining requirements for trustworthiness, and optimize their operation based on trust-related factors. And finally, by integrating trustworthiness into the Alto protocol, network resources can be utilized in a more informed and secure manner, aligning with the specific trust requirement of application and users. The call for actions related to today's presentation and materials, and from this interim meeting, the question that I would ask is related to the relevance of this topic to the Alto group. So if the answer is yes, what are the aspects that should be prioritized as part of the chartered item? What are the most valued expected outcome for each idea, and who need to be involved, and also who wants to be included and in order to implement this. The other question, because of the nature of trust, the subjective nature and the complexity of this trust as a topic, should we also think later on, maybe at a later time offline, to in terms of relevance to other work groups? So if the answer is yes within the IETF, so which work groups and what are the cross sections with the Alto protocol, and who are the relevant people that need to be contacted? And I will stop my presentation here, and I will be more than happy to answer any of the questions that you might have.
Okay, thanks for introduction. It's a very interesting proposal. And so, Ayubu, can you share your slides again? Before open floor to the audience, actually, I want to make some quick comments. I think you discuss 4 aspects actually, and in my interpretation, actually, I think these 4 aspects are more related to how trust information can be measured, how the trust information can be transported, how trust information can be connected, and how trust information can be exposed using auto protocol. So I think, go back to the question you want to ask. I think, currently auto working group more focus on, how trust focus on, auto interface between the auto client and auto server. And also we, in the previous interim meeting, we discussed how to integrate different data sources. This is related to the interface between auto server and the network infrastructure. So my impression, for how the trust information can be measured or can be transported, currently is not in the scope of auto working group. And so my suggestion is for 4 aspects, I expect my impression is some of the aspect may be related to auto protocol extension. But if you can reformulate into some kind of use case and requirements that will help people better understand and how this can be fitted into the auto charter. So I like to open floor to the audience. Any comments to this proposal? Rachel, go ahead.
Okay, so I do have a few questions, but I'm going to start with the first one. I think can you go to your second one, which is about using trust as a cost metric? I think that's your item number 2. I think this can be a very interesting use case. We are oftentimes, for example, if I do have multiple servers, I'm a client, I'm trying to download from one of multiple multiple servers, which can give me content. And then sometimes I do have policy constraints. For example, if I download this content 1 and from client 1, and maybe, for example, client 1 is from Europe, and therefore I want to make sure I download from, for example, the European server, and also the whole routing from the server to the client will not go outside of Europe, for example. And something similar, right? Client 2 and also has corresponding server 2. So therefore, also the whole path would be somehow go through a given policy domain, right? Because you don't want to go outside the policy domain, otherwise you're going to have some kind of policy violations. I think that can be useful, but I'm kind of curious about a little bit details. Do you envision such a number to be a vector, or this one would be a filter constraint? So what do you envision this one would be encoded? And the potential can be added into auto when it selects servers, for example, right? So I hope you can give a little bit more details.
Thank you, Richard, for your question. It's very, very relevant question to this, to the possible use cases related to the cost measurement as part of the ALTO. The difficulty here, basically, it's aligns with different. How can we define the subject? Because trust, as by its essence, is very subjective. So how can we define the, I would say, measurable metric for measuring trust? And this it will be a use case specific. Different service provider will have maybe different interpretation of the way they want to improve their network, and how can the way they can calculate the trust measurement. Here, what our aim is basically to provide like standard way of computing trust value, where different service provider like tweak only the numbers and the weights parameters related to obtaining the final cost measurement. And then this cost measurement will be only helping like as decision vector for making decision. Okay, so either to then if you're asking how to implement it in terms of final use cases for as part of the ALTO, the answer will be depend on the final use case. Are we talking here only about the client, or are we talking about it can be used basically to judge the trustworthiness of the content itself, or the path, so there are very different ways, as you can see, different ways of like explaining this.
Okay. Yeah, there are a bunch of details, but I guess I'm going to first, I think I see your point. So depending on the use case, I'm going to probe you offline and we can talk about the details, because I do see potentially complexity in terms of, encoding the trust information. In particular, I think it doesn't have to be totally subjective. For example, policy can be actually subjective, can be objective, right? Do you go through Europe or
Exactly.
not?
Yes.
It's kind of
Yes.
complex,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes.
For
Yes.
example, go through European countries. If you go through Turkey, you go to some countries spanning two countries, and what does it mean? Two continents, and so on. So therefore, there are all kinds of ambiguity. But I do see the point. Okay, I'm going to let other people ask questions. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard, for the call.
Next, Luis.
Yes, thanks, Ayub, for the presentation. One question that was coming to my mind is the following. So, okay, the server can offer this quality of trust or this trust metric, but should we somehow also protect the client from the fact of the server keeping track of the selection of the client? So maybe it's a sensible information as well to let's say not keep track or not keep any register of what the client is selecting based on the information provided by Alto. So that should be also a point to consider from your point of view.
It is definitely a point to consider because when we talk about trust, the privacy inclination or the privacy related issues coming from that, it's very a very very serious implication. In order to answer that, there are two ways of considering it. Here, there are if we implement the trust measurement as part within the Alto, so the client, if you want to, you need to trust like the Alto server in order to be able to like interact with the server. However, there is a possibility, if you can see here, that maybe is it possible to use a third party, like in order to gauge the trustworthiness of a client, rather than sharing personal identifiable information related to the client. Once again, here the use case that will the final use case will help decide or identify which path to follow in order to implement this practically.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
I do see some question also in the chat, so how can I approach that?
Maybe later on. Yeah, we have Sabine in the queue. Maybe Sabine will be the next.
Hello. Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
we can hear you.
Thanks, Ayub, for your presentation. I understand there are several dimensions to this topic of trust, because I saw trust of information that is provided, trust also the client. Can you trust the client? Trust, and then there is another dimension, which would be that the trust of path on the past. So, as Richard mentioned, there is also the aspect of how secure is the path, and also how robust is the path. So these are the several dimensions I saw in your presentation. So I think it would be interesting maybe to sort out these topics if you are to edit a document, because all of them are definitely very important, and especially when in the process of editing an RFC, all these aspects are really crucial to add in a document.
Thank you very much, Sabine, for your comment. It's very, very important, the element that you identified, because this is what we found in terms as a challenge, basically, studying this topic. We do need to have like a wide understanding of the topic before identifying specific use cases. So we are very, you're very much welcome, basically, to join us, and we'll definitely come back to share some of the support from the Alto group in order to move forward with like a formal definition of trust as a cost measurement in general. Then we can identify the possible, I would say, at least these three elements. Is it the client? I would say that is it the client trust measure for the client? Is it just for the server? Is it for the content provider? or is it for the past? There are four angles actually that we are considered. Once again, the angles that are considered are client, the Alto client, the Alto server, the content provider, and the path.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sabine.
Thank you.
Next, Jody.
Thanks, Ayub, for the nice presentation. Yeah, just to clarify, so you mentioned that trust is subjective. So do you expect to be in a scope for this work to define a set of objective metrics to define trust? Is that part of the goal of this, or the goal of this is just to provide mechanisms to extract this information from the network and convey from the server to the client? So do you expect that we will also get, or that this work should also get into defining what trust is? And I think this is connected with Matt's question in the chat, that we should connect with IPPM for the metric, basically. So what's your thinking about this? Yeah.
Thank you, Alto. Let me start with the first part related to how can we implement this. There are different ways. Is it a new map? Is it like just I would say an extension of already existing map? I think that we need to assess the two possibilities, but let's start with, first of all, trying to include trust as just not new map, but like a next element, like a measurement, cost measurement, a new cost measurement, and see the value. If this provide value, we can decide to move forward and maybe evaluate the usefulness of including a new complete map. But here I'm just having these proposals in terms of ideas, and I would ask basically for your inputs in order to help decide which one is the most, I would say, relevant, and which one is the most timely, and most importantly, which one is the most needed. If it's not so, in terms of proposal, if it's not needed, if it's not like useful, so yes, we can like discard this. I'm talking about the usefulness of the new map focused on trust. So related to the second element, I can also mention by Med related to how can define trust. Yes, it's very like a big as trust, as I said, it's a big topic. We do need to study the relevance to other working group and what other organization that they might be interested in this topic, and we do need to try to cover at least what are the similarities and how we can learn from each other.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much, Jordi and Med.
Okay, again, Richard.
Yeah, very quick question. So I think one thing which is quite a different potential I see from your architecture is Alto right now is mostly a client server protocol where the server somehow, quote unquote, owns the information that it can potentially distribute to the client. So if I'm server, if basically I'm representing an ISP, so therefore all the information I talk about I own. So therefore I mostly would have the authority to distribute the information or not. I think one quite a new dimension from your work, for example, look at item number 1, you want to go to your trust IP, is somehow you're talking about a potentially network would be able to distribute information which the network doesn't potentially fully own or doesn't own or fully own. For example, the location of an IP address somehow is owned not only by the network, actually owned by the third party. Not the Alto client, not the Alto server, is third party. So therefore, if I see the overall to get architecture right, you might need someone to be able to manage the trusted or the management of the distribution of the information. For example, now the device owns IP address, might need to have a say to talk about what kind of information I want to really distribute. That's actually a major missing piece in Alto. Alto doesn't have such a capability to do management of the essential information disclosure. So do you envision such entity will be added into the system or not? Or maybe there's third party? So therefore,
Thank you very much for this important question. There are actually two ways of seeing this. You can see it as a standalone solution, as you said, in terms of so that the Alto server will handle all the repercussion coming from uncovering like trust-related element. However, there are some limitation of what the Alto server can do. This is how I would say we can move to the second approach, which will be using a third party or an external interface, not just like third party. It can be like we can think about standardizing this element outside of the Alto group if it's if there is interest, obviously. But what I can see about this third party can be like a certification authority similar to that. It will be focused on trust. Does it make sense?
Interesting, but there are a lot of details we can discuss offline.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Okay, and actually, I have some other comments. Regarding the transfer information distribution, maybe, we need to consider some of distributed approach or centralized approach, and maybe we have a third party to maintain this kind of transfer information. So the one question come to my mind is how this trust information management related to the identity management. We already have some kind of directory, maybe use LDAP or some protocol to get access to this kind of identity information. So do you envision this identity management functionality should integrate into the Auto server, or they should be maintained separately?
I think this is aligned with the comment previously. Thank you very much, Jane, for the comment coming from Richard, in the sense that it can be trust-focused services as part of the Alto service layer. This is one way of seeing it, but I guess we do need to further discussion in order to decide which is the best way of approaching this.
Okay. One more comment is, for your proposal, this is trust a little bit like a buzzword. You really need to break down into, maybe some attribute related to the trust, and so we talk a lot about, trust metrics. So this may be related to the IPPM working group, and define the concrete metric, and then come back to the Auto working group to see how this can be represented in the Auto protocol. And in addition, we need to consider how this trust can be measured. There's some other relevant work in RATS working group focused on remote attestation, provide trustworthy for the device during the boot stage, and also there's some other work in the security area, like geo-privacy. This working has already concluded, but I think it's more relevant. Regarding the trust information management, also in security area or maybe application area, there's a privacy preservation management working group, and so this is more relevant work you should take a look at it, and to see how this how the trust information can work together with like a RATS mechanism, or maybe privacy, geo-privacy mechanism to support this, to put it together, how these can work together with the Auto protocol to support this kind of trust concept.
Thank you very much, Jane, for all these comments. I will try to follow on all of the different elements. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we can stop this topic. Next one is Luis. Yeah. Luis, do you want to share a slide? Okay.
Yes, I will share my screen. So, okay. Just 1 second. Okay. Okay, I think you can see my slides, right?
Not yet. I think you should, you may push the wrong button. Maybe you should, push the button for the share slides, not a share screen.
Okay, let's try then.
Yeah.
I think I should stop then the sharing of the screen.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll give you permission. Okay. Yeah, we can
now,
see now.
right? Okay, thank you. So yeah, well, I will try to cover a number of security aspects coming from the idea or the experience that we have had in the integration of Alto in Telefonica CDN, plus other use cases that we have in mind, some other, let's say, ideas that are not yet being implemented at all, but somehow we are considering them for future work, let's say. So as a background, probably it's interesting to highlight the fact that there are a number of security issues highlighted or identified so far, right? So we have there was a high-level discussion of security issues in Alto for the problem statement, but also for the requirements document. These were somehow the baseline of the further development of Alto, and somehow we have also security concerns in that respect. Then issues related to Alto server discovery and identified cases in Alto deployments as well. And for sure, further security considerations in the remaining RFCs, which are more specific to the concrete topic, to the specific topic of that RFC, but everything is orbiting around security in Alto. What I will comment is a list of situations or issues that can generate security problems from an operational perspective. So departing from the idea of this integration of Alto in Telefonica for the integration of the CDN, and so we have addressed, or we have, let's say, foresee or identify some potential security issues, complemented as well for some other work in progress that we are considering for future use cases, future integration with other applications in Telefonica. So the approach that I have taken has been the following. I have considered the Alto server as the central part of the Alto framework. This does not mean that there are other security concerns in other parts. For sure, there are, but somehow the storyline is focusing on the Alto server, then talking about the security concerns that could appear in the retrieval of information, so the interaction with the network controller, and so on and so forth. So it would be somehow the southbound interface of Alto, and then commenting some other issues, some other considerations that could come from the exposure of the information. With this, we are linking as well with some other aspects from the Alto client. So the Alto client is in the northbound interface from the Alto servers, and somehow apply to both sides of that interface the security considerations that I will comment. I left apart security considerations about the information to be processed by Alto. I think that probably this is internal and not a matter to be standardized or to be explored in the Alto working group. But whatever needs to deal with interoperability with other elements, network elements, or Alto client, could be worthy to work on it, right? So in the next slides, what I will address, I classified the topics that I will comment as risk and as potential properties. The risks identify potential issue, a security concern in that interaction, either in the northbound or in the southbound. And as a potential property, what I identify could be additional information that Alto could provide, and this information is related to security. So somehow, in the first case, in the risk, we are addressing the security concerns of the Alto components, let's say. In the second case, what we are doing is comment about possible use cases that Alto could enable from the security perspective, so providing security information. Somehow, this second case would be common, or would be similar to what Ayub has commented, but I will provide some other potential use cases, let's say. So I will move for the next slide. So regarding the information retrieval, a number of risks, a number of issues could be considered. The first, in the interaction with the network, in a broad sense, so with the network elements, but also with the controllers. So essentially, the point here would be that the server connection to the network elements, or to the controllers, must be secure. So probably, we need to enforce all the the authentication of the BGP session, for instance, if we are connected through BGP. But there are some other protocols that we could consider, like LLDP, like for instance, the connection with the SDN controller for retrieving the topology with a YAML model, and so on and so forth. So essentially, securing the connection to the network elements or to the controllers, or to the root reflectors, and so on and so forth. The second point is the second issue of consideration is to have some robustness against new parameters or stations that could come from that protocols or dark mechanisms used for retrieving the information. For instance, augmentation or new NLRIs for the BGPLS, new augmentations that could come with the models and so. Playing with that augmentations could crash the retrieval of the information, and somehow we need to secure Alto server from that potential issues, right? The third case would be to handle very frequent network updates that can stress the Alto server processing. So in some cases, there will be timers being specified, like could be in the case of BGP, or this will result, I mean, not new updates from BGP could result for updates in the network that somehow are modulated by the timers of the IGP. At least another case could not be, the situation could not be like that. So somehow we need to protect to secure the Alto server from very frequent network updates. So that would be related for the interaction with the network. A second set of risk identified could be about the integration with additional data or additional metrics, or sources providing data or metrics, let's say. So in risk number 4 would be the secure retrieval of information from external components, and these components could be props, maybe for measuring the performance metrics, management systems for retrieving information related to the characteristics or properties of the nodes, inventory systems if we can collect, we need to collect information from the inventories, for instance, the location could be one of them, etc., etc. And the fifth one could be mechanisms for confidentially and secure interchange of information, for instance, the metrics. So we need to expose, we need to collect this information in a secure manner in order to avoid that others can take this information and use this information with malicious purposes. So moving forward, more about the information exposure, and the following ones we relate with PID identifiers. So the formation of PID is also sensible because can reveal too many topological details. By now, for instance, we are building the PID information with the IP router ID, I mean the internal IP address, the autonomous system number, and so on and so forth. We need to find ways of somehow obscuring such information in order to avoid the revealing too much information. One case could be randomization, another way could be dynamic generation of PID identifiers. But anyway, because we need the PID identifier is something that should be shared with the IP with the Alto client, so we need also to find secure ways of interchanging the PID of interest between the Alto client and the Alto server. So either if we go to randomization, for instance, we need to ensure that that communication is secure between the client and the server, because we need to know what is the PID that the Alto client is requesting, is interested. The second case would be associated to performance metrics that can permit malicious parties to produce targeted attacks. So for instance, if we are revealing that we have an exceptional performance in a given link or path, maybe some attackers could try to do something in order to create problems in that path. So we need to essentially protect also that information, to obfuscate that information that cannot be taken by malicious parties. And the final set of requirements here would be about the interaction with the Alto client. So the Alto client server interface can suffer attacks from malicious clients. So maybe we can consider publish and subscribe mechanisms in such a way that we can isolate the client from the Alto server. The second one would be about denial of service because of too frequent client requests, or situations where we can create TCP zero window situations, so in such a way that we cannot answer as fast as we have the request from the clients. And the final point here would be the secure transport of client request. So especially some initial data should be interchanged, as could be maybe this idea of what are the PIDs where the clients are interested. So maybe here the solution could be similar to what was done in the PCE case, so securing the communication with TLS and so, but it could be something that could be worthy to explore. So moving forward, and now going through the information exposure.
Luis,
yes.
You have 1 minute.
Yeah, I will speed up too much. So regarding information exposure, so the issue here would be the disclosure to other clients of information that is relevant only to one of the clients. So we need to preserve information among clients, so avoiding this, maybe filtering and so. And then thinking on properties and not risk to potential usage of enabling security cases. That could be the augmentation of math presenting security-related properties. It could be the information, for instance, about encrypted paths that could be that the client could use for delivering the traffic, or even providing additional information about security that could be, for instance, keys for a particular communication. Then the very last slide, so the proposal for action would be essentially to overview the general security considerations already existing in ALTO working group in the different RFCs, and probably document new security considerations for either the recent experience in the ALTO deployments, as the case of the TCDN, or foreseen security concerns coming from augmentation or extensions coming from the additional use cases that we are discussing these days, or even new architectural approaches. And that is all from my side.
Thank you, Luis, for introduction. So I want to have a quick comments for this security consideration. You consider two aspects. One is auto information retrieval. The second is auto information exposure. So do you expect we need to provide a more secure mechanism to for this auto information retrieval and auto information exposure?
Yeah, I think so. As mentioned, for instance, a case, the publish subscribe case would be, for instance, something sensible. So trying to decouple the interaction of the client with the server, we can find a way, an easiest way of protecting the server. That could be an example. And for the retrieval of the information, the same. No, if we need to go through other systems like management system, inventories, and so we need also to protect that communication. That could be two examples. So making the answer brief, yes, I think so. It would apply for both.
So another question: How can you give an example? What security information you really want to add to into the maybe auto protocol? Can you give a quick example?
Yeah, as mentioned here, two very brief examples could be as a property of the path to communicate or to expose if the path has encryption capabilities. Maybe this could be relevant for the client, maybe using an encrypted path instead of a path that does not incorporate these encryption capabilities. A second case could be, for instance, for the map, also to provide for a given session some keys. For instance, the public key for encrypting the traffic in a particular session. So this could be the kind of information that could be useful for the client for a secure communication.
Okay, thank you. So Rachel? Rachel, do you want to make comments?
Yeah, sorry, I'm muted. Okay. Luis, I think this is a very good, very complete survey of the whole security and trust sort of workflow. I'm curious if you might even go, for example, for this document, you might even consider even a little bit more. In particular, if I'm thinking about the whole security or information management, for example, one use, I guess, let me use the case of BGP. One of the classical examples in BGP, which is actually the security compromise or DDoS compromise, is one autonomous system would announce, okay, my BGP path to everyone is 0, right? And then everyone will send traffic to this guy, and then essentially would crash the whole internet. So therefore, I don't know if that's a security issue or that's DDoS issue and so on, and it's a bug. Would you consider some kind of integrity of the information into your framework or into this exposure in the sense of correctness? Yes, the information channel is secure, it's all authenticated, but what if an auto server says, okay, my cost to the information is totally wrong with given locations. So therefore, then the client will be totally misled. Do you think there's some way we can integrate such an integrated check or essentially unit test into the system? For example, client say, hey, I really know the cost from A to B should be 5, and here you're giving me 10, which means you're wrong. Is there embedding some kind of unit test into the auto system? You can do self-check.
Yeah, could be interesting as well. There is some discussion about integrity in some of the RFCs, the one regarding auto deployments, if I'm not wrong. So certainly integrity of the information is something already addressed or commented in previous RFCs. And certainly the case that you mentioned, it provides total value. So my short answer would be yes. So this is something that we can consider as well.
Okay, any other comments? I think I want to make another comment. You know, we in auto working we already have auto deployment RFC. It is now outdated. Maybe do you expect that we need to make a bid for the auto deployment and so what do you expect the outcome for this proposal?
Well, in my case, I'm not so sure about the outcome because probably the security aspect could have two dimensions. The dimension of enabling security cases that link with the presentation from Ayub and probably some other properties or information that we could provide together with the maps. So somehow Alto could be an enabler of use cases. And the second case in the security concerns could be about how to make the solution robust and how to protect and make the solution secure. In this case, certainly there are some discussion in the Alto deployment, but the focus is not entirely on security. So I'm not so sure if the outcome could be a revision of that previous document or something much more specific focus on security. Probably it's something that we will realize what will be the proper outcome to have once we start exploring all the previous information. I mean, all these issues already identified. Probably after that would be more clear what could be the potential outcome.
Yeah, so I think in the past we discussed, for the auto information, when we distribute this kind of information, maybe expose some of sensitive information. So one proposal is to use wholesale to carry the auto information. So maybe, as you, the example you gave, actually, maybe we can we can ask auto server to indicate to the client whether we use a wholesale or use some encryption mechanism. This could be additional property, but not so many properties. Because I really think if we introduce too many security attributes, maybe will damage the performance when you distribute the auto information. So we really need to look for the balance between the security attribute we introduce and then network performance when we distribute the information. Okay, I think we can end this proposal, and we still have. So, Luis, do you have?
Sorry, I was going to mute myself and I opened the micro. Sorry, apologies.
Okay. So we still have 3 minutes, and I want to quick go back to our chair slides and to open floor to the audience about future of the working group, and we have some of text in the GitHub to discuss next step of the working group. And so, Matt, do you have any comments on this?
The basic comment here is that to say that as we are closing the remaining document from the working group, and we have already received some feedback from the participant about the future of the working group. I think that it will be really good to revive that discussion so that we can sum up and analyze the energy there to decide what would be the I would say the better next step for the working group. So we are seeking to have more, I would say, pull requests to the current text so that we can filter out it, and I would say sort out the items that are candidate to the to be considered for eventual, I would say, reshuffling of the working group. But all of this will be dependent on discussion that we'll have also with our area director. So we need more feedback from all of you, and please feel free to provide your inputs directly either in the mailing list or in the GitHub.
Great, and I think we already scheduled 5 interim meetings, really cook out the new proposal and also try to finish the existing work. So I think the new proposal, some of the proposal has a lot of potential. I think for all the proponents should keep on to work on their proposal, and raise some discussion and comments on the list about so for the next step of the working group. And okay, I think we probably and actually reached the end of the meeting. And thanks everybody to join the meeting, and see you in next IETF meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.